Okay, let's dive right in. Today, we're taking apart a document that's been quietly passed around for years, a pretty controversial 2006 text that claims to have the key to social dynamics. It's called The Blueprint, and, well, it makes some really bold promises.
The text kicks off with a question that, let's be honest, probably every single one of us has asked ourselves at some point. It hooks you immediately because it taps right into that deep, universal feeling of wanting something different.
And boom, right there, it puts its main idea on the table. It's not about changing your city, your job, or anything external. The text argues that the only change that really matters is the one that happens inside you. This one idea is the bedrock for everything else we're about to cover.
So, just to be super clear, what we're doing here is taking this thing apart piece by piece. Our goal is to deconstruct the system it presents. We're not here to say it's right or wrong, we're just here to understand how it claims to work. So, let's get into it.
So where do you even start with something like this? Well, here's the interesting part. The book says the very first step isn't about learning a single new thing. Nope, it's about unlearning. It argues you've got to tear down what it calls your social conditioning before you can build anything new.
So what's the big problem it's trying to solve? The text basically argues that most of us get our ideas about attraction from movies, songs, what our friends tell us. And according to this text, that advice isn't just a little bit off, it's completely backward. It creates this state it calls a walking daze that kind of blinds us to how these dynamics really play out. And yeah, it gets really specific about the so-called myths it wants to just blow up. Things like money or looks being the key, the idea that you can logically argue someone into liking you, or that buying flowers or pouring your heart out is the magic bullet. The book's whole point is that these are all dead ends on a faulty map.
And there's a term for this whole faulty map. It calls it social conditioning. But look at the definition here. The really crucial part, according to the text, is that last phrase, that these are ideas we accept as truth without ever really stopping to check if they're real.
Okay, so if the first step is to tear everything down, what do you build on the rubble? That brings us to part 2, what the book calls the engine of the whole system, the new currency that drives attraction.
And this right here, this is like the first commandment in the Blueprints Bible. Attraction is emotional. It's not logical. The text just hammers this point home again and again. It says you can't reason someone into feeling it. It's a gut reaction. This distinction is everything. Okay, so if it's not logic, then what flips that emotional switch? The text introduces this core concept it calls value. And check out the definition. It's not just about, survival stuff. It's also about offering good emotions. So in this world, being funny, telling a good story, that is a form of value.
Right, so how do you actually show this value? The text says it has almost nothing to do with the words you say. It's all about what it calls sub-communication. We're talking body language, your tone of voice, eye contact, all the stuff happening under the surface. It's basically the delivery system for your value.
And then it gives you the flip side, what not to do. It calls it supplication. Think about it, buying someone a drink, hoping they'll like you, giving way too many compliments. The book frames this as basically sub-communicating, hey, you're up here and I'm down here, which in this system is seen as incredibly unattractive.
Now this slide is where it all comes together. It's this stark contrast. On one side, you have logical wants, the checklist of things someone might say they want. A nice guy. On the other, you've got emotional responses, which the text argues are these automatic, gut-level reactions to that sub-communicated value. The whole point of the blueprint is to live and breathe on that right-hand side of the chart.
Okay, this next part is a really big shift. The text basically says, look, you can try to fake the behaviors, but it's never going to work long-term. If you want to change the output, your sub-communication, you first have to go deep and change the source code. You have to upgrade your internal operating system.
And what's the central processor of that whole OS? One word: identity. The argument here is super simple. People aren't reacting to what you do, they're reacting to who they feel you are underneath it all. It's about your deepest beliefs about yourself.
And this leads to a really important distinction. Situational confidence is when you feel good because you're in your element. Maybe you're the host of the party or you're great at your job.
but take you out of that situation and poof, it can vanish. Core confidence, on the other hand, is what the book says is the real prize. It's this deep down, unshakable belief in your own value that you carry with you everywhere, no matter what's happening outside.
So the text breaks down where this confidence, or what it calls entitlement, comes from, and it's laid out like a ladder. You start at the bottom with superficial things like looks or money, then you climb up to having social proof from friends or a real skill, like being a great storyteller. But you see the pattern here? The text frames those first four as external, as temporary. The end game, the top of the ladder, is number 5, where that feeling isn't based on anything outside you. It's just who you are.
So if you have this core identity, how does it actually show up in the real world? Well, the tool for that is something the text calls your frame. Just think of it like your personal reality bubble, your interpretation of what's going on. And here's the wild idea. Every single interaction is a quiet collision of these reality bubbles. And the stronger, more solid bubble always ends up pulling the other one into its reality.
And this is a perfect example of what that looks like. These aren't things people are saying out loud. This is the unspoken stuff, the internal monologue going on in each person's head. And according to the blueprint, whoever is more certain of their own reality, whoever has the stronger frame, they set the tone for the entire interaction.
Okay, so we've got all the pieces, right? Value, identity, frame. Now, how do we actually put this thing into practice? The final part of this system really boils down to one simple choice.
And here they are, the 2 modes of being. You can be reactive, which is basically running around trying to get a good reaction from other people, always needing something from them. Or you can be proactive, and that means you focus inward first. You build up your own value, you get your own house in order, so that when you interact with the world, you're not trying to take, you're just acting from a place of fullness.
And this quote right here just sums up that entire proactive philosophy. The book says, getting fixated on one person is being reactive. The real proactive move is to work on yourself, to become an attractive person in general. Then, the specific person becomes an option, not the entire mission.
And here it is. This is the end game. This is the whole promised payoff of the blueprint. The journey it's trying to take you on is from being the person who's just kind of hoping for the best, taking whatever interest comes their way, to becoming the person who has built so much of this core value that they're the one who gets to choose.
Which brings us to the big question that this whole thing kind of leaves you with. Is that deep, real confidence something you have to earn through external validation, by succeeding and getting approval from others? Or is it just a decision? Is it something you can build from the inside out simply by deciding that's who you're going to be? The blueprint has its answer, but it's a powerful question to think about for yourself.